ReZero needs no introduction. In an industry filled to the brim with unoriginal self-insert characters being magically transported to mythical worlds via Senior Truck where they can leave behind their unfulfilling lives and inevitably become not losers, a few brave souls decided to step outside this predetermined narrative structure and push the boundaries of what is an admittedly really cool concept providing endless possibilities. One of these brave souls is named Tappei Nagatsuki, who began serialization of a web novel destined for mass acclaim on April 20th, 2012. Armed with memorable characters, witty dialogue, and a whole lot of suffering, the series would eventually be picked up and adapted by Studio White Fox in the year of 2016. And from there, the rest is history. Whether it was the jaw-dropping twists and turns or the ever-present war of the waifus, God bless all casualties sustained, ReZero simply could not stay out of the cultural spotlight, becoming one of the most popular anime of its decade. It follows almost all the same story beats as Isekai before it. A kid down on his luck is transported to a grand world of magic, given power that no other person in this world has access to, in this case, the ability to return by death. Every time that he dies in this world, he is returned to a checkpoint, a defined place in time, before he somehow met his end. The thing is, while this power is incredibly useful in its own right, what it's not good for is blitzing the seemingly impossible situations he's thrust into head on. Subaru is as bang average in pretty much every aspect of life as possible, and with no magical gifts or superhuman abilities bestowed upon him, he's in for a hell of a ride. The one thing he does have going for him is his return by death, the ability to collect various pieces of information that'll hopefully serve him well in the next go around. But the only way to use it is to, well, you know. Ultimately, it's a really fun concept. ReZero is a mystery thriller where the main character is tasked with finding the right sequence of events to get through to the next portion of the story. Things will seemingly be playing out perfectly, and then boom, from the top rope, everything is flipped on its head, and we've got to start back from zero. The value of each loop can be chalked up to how much our main character is able to learn and carry back to the next loop, is what I'd say if the story didn't possess another layer of depth. In ReZero, none of our characters are perfect. From Emilia, Krush, Apple Guy, the Bulin Banditos, Cat, Clown, Echidna and her Echidnas, Rim, aka really ooey Emilia. Yeah, that took me a while. They've each got their own motivations, strengths, weaknesses, and depending on what buttons are pressed during any given loop, you can see drastically different sides of their personalities. Subaru is just as complex of a character. Theoretically, the best way for him to operate would be to attempt to gain as much knowledge as possible before inevitably dying, repeating the cycle over and over before finally reaching the desired result. Yet, Subaru is just a normal kid. The amount of trauma involved with experiencing gruesome deaths over and over and over again is, it's a lot. Even though he can return by death, the viewer finds themselves pulling for him to live simply because homie is not doing daijobu. The real battle comes down to whether or not Subaru can find the right line before losing his goddamn mind, and boy, is it wonderful to watch. The show's willingness to touch on obvious subjects that are often haphazardly overlooked in other isekai productions actually gives ReZero a lot of its narrative backbone. Like, hey, I know that I'm living in this world with cute demon maids and all the lizard love I could want, but what about my family that loves me back home who are most likely experiencing unfathomable despair? Anybody? Hey, I know that in order to use my power, I've got to die, but what if I don't really feel like dying? Kinda sucks. Hey, what about all the other loops that I died in? Does that timeline where I just openly killed myself in front of all of those who care about me just keep going? These are questions that most people would have if given the time to sit there and think for 30 seconds, yet most stories just gloss over them, meaning ReZero by default is a breath of fresh air. Speaking of fresh breath, while Subaru is able to traverse time at will, that doesn't mean everybody else can. Characters have no recollection of previous loops like both Subaru and the viewer do, making for an interesting dynamic. While they may have no remembrance of the degeneracy displayed in previous loops, boy, both he and the viewer sure do. So much shit, so many awful and terrible things, sides of people that they would normally never let on, are revealed in timelines that now solely exist in this boy's memory. He is so very alone. Simply armed with both his accumulated knowledge and high charisma to appeal to those with the power to change their fate, his success entirely hinges on the ability to not only rely on himself, but on those around him. That is his true power. He can also blow up. And because all of this entails a significant amount of dialogue or talk no jutsu, the necessity to make dialogue interesting from a visual perspective is paramount. Director Masaharu Watanabe had his work cut out for him in this regard, but luckily his technical skill and vision lended itself perfectly to the story of Re:Zero. Right off the cuff, a thing that immediately stands out is that for a show of this magnitude, there really aren't many cuts of animation that you can point to and say, delicious. Lots of productions that see mass acclaim, especially within recent years, are granted an unprecedented level of sakuga that serves to both enhance and define their most important moments. Re:Zero doesn't have this. And yet, to call the production mediocre from an animation point of view would be an incredible disservice to all the good the team manages to accomplish. The show is gorgeous. Watanabe is an absolute savant when it comes to the manipulation of camera angles and the arrangement of characters in a shot. Although the effect is often obscured to the naked eye, the impact these decisions have on the mood, the emotion of a scene is immense. Watanabe spent 5 years at the legendary Kyoto Animation Studio, aka KyoAni, home to what I believe is the pinnacle of character animation in the anime industry. His obsession with the small things, such as the warmth returning to Subaru's eyes, is one of those blink and you'll miss it details, but the amount of emotion, the insight one naturally derives from such an easily overlooked element is crazy. In fact, I'd argue that the team is almost too good at depicting the psyche of their characters. One big knock on the show is how insufferable Subaru is as a character, especially early on, and I think that a lot of this has to do with the artistic direction of the show. On one hand, because the visuals and voice acting convey the raw emotion of a sequence so well, the high moments often knock it well out of the park. The inverse is that immediately after Subaru's occasional outbursts of self-loathing, you can't help but to think he's a worthless piece of shit, which is an interesting way to think about the central protagonist of the story. Whiplash from experiencing both sides to such an extent, oftentimes in the same episode, can come off as overdramatic, almost a bit too much, and overshadow the more subtle nature of the narrative being told. But I personally love it. Because I can't rave about Watanabe enough, I'm gonna keep going. The team and their unique use of layouts were able to achieve something that almost no other production can. It's actually kinda scary. Establishing a sense of horror in anime is inherently an uphill battle, considering, well, the characters look like this. For Re:Zero specifically, we literally know that Subaru just returns by death when he dies, so the stakes inherently aren't even that high. But the color, the framing, the gruesome nature, this fucking sound effect, oh, sweet baby Jesus. I don't know if I'll ever look at a bunny the same. I think that a lot of the horror-esque elements, while supplemented by the visuals, can in large part be attributed to the excellent sound design as well. The dragging of chains or the ominous ringing of a cell phone immediately puts the viewer on edge, creating this sense of suspense for what's to come. Music to me has always been the art form most capable of evoking emotional responses, and solid sound design has similar vibes. I guess to summarize, while the show certainly is a cut below the leaders of the industry when it comes to eye-popping animation, it does so many other things right that it's beyond easy to just forget the lack of sakuga and let yourself be immersed in the atmosphere of Re:Zero. Not only do the general masses echo this sentiment, but so too do the higher ups. Re:Zero has a long-running history of completely ignoring industry-standard episode lengths. Most productions come in around 23-24 minutes per episode, while Re:Zero consistently pushes that 30-minute limit. This isn't something that the team could just decide to do, otherwise it may be way more prevalent. It's a special privilege bestowed to ignore all opening and ending sequences, even disregarding commercial breaks, to both fit in as much content as possible while also letting the show naturally flow without disruption. I cannot emphasize enough how unique this situation is, a gift rightfully earned through the production committee's immense trust of Watanabe and his team. It's really cool. All this being said, season 3 is quickly approaching and Watanabe is no longer the director, so yeah, just disregard everything I just said. To say that Watanabe's vision was irreplaceable to the overall success of Re:Zero would be underselling his work. On top of this, Yoshikawa Sanaki, Studio White Fox's main animation producer, has also departed for Studio... I'm not even gonna try. An animation producer's main responsibility is the hiring and scouting of staff members, so to say that his loss also wouldn't be felt would be a downright lie. And while I'm admittedly a little worried about the direction of season 3, the the more that I think about it, the more I know that it's gonna be just fine. The groundwork set by Watanabe and his staff is as solid as it gets. ReZero has reached a level of popularity most shows can only dream of, and because of that, will draw the talents of both seasoned veterans and aspiring dreamers alike. Although I'll surely miss those signature wide layouts of the previous seasons, I'm excited to see what fresh ideas a new set of eyes will be able to bring, and for that reason, I'll stay optimistic. But they'll never be able to beat this.
俺はエミリアが好きだ。
私はそれを切断するつもりです。